We have 81 new dupes in this set, so I'm going to do it in two parts. This part will be Grass, Fire, Water, Lightning, Psychic, and Fighting. The new Tangle is very similar to the most recent one, where you get either guaranteed sleep or a coin flip to paralyze. I guess sleep is technically better since there's a chance it persists longer than one turn, but if you can find some other reason to put a will into your deck, then the paralysis one is the best. Sadly, all three Tangrowths aren't very strong. They're best as early game walls in a superior deck, I think. Only the middle one has any real trick to it, but it would take a very specific meta for it to be useful. Hitting babies for only 10 damage is especially ugly. The latest one is probably the worst of the three. This latest Heracross is an absolute fiend and the most slept on card in the new set, I think. Berry removes 2 energies from its attack cost, which means it can actually attack on turn 1, potentially knocking out a baby instantly. Not only that, but once Superior is on the bench, it does an impressive 80 damage on 1 energy, giving you a means of killing Oricorio, plus a consistent high damage output while you set something else up. This is the best Heracross by far in my opinion. Our new Celebi has a completely different role from the previous one, giving us a Memory Light effect without the need to dedicate a tool. This could be useful for an Altaria to use Sing, or Melmetal to use a Mass, or something like that. In the right deck it could be very strong. Amusingly, when you have a Grass-type support card like this or Ogerpon, you can draw them with your opponent's Fragrant Forest, which is pretty funny. I think both Surskates have some merit. The new Surskate discards a fire energy from the opponent, which is a pretty welcome effect in a Grass deck, and if the effect continued onto the Masquerain, it might actually be useful, but most fire decks run Flame Patch, which lets them get 2 energies in one go anyway. Masquerain's actual effect is a low energy, low damage attacker. The new one has a retreat cost, but can be used in any deck, though Grass isn't really a good enough type offensively to warrant making room for it. I wouldn't touch either of these. New Shroomish inflicts Sleep, which is not only more useful than 20 damage, but it also has synergy with the new Breloom, which does bonus damage on sleeping Pokemon. That being said, while your damage is really high when it works, the chances the opponent will still be asleep after one full turn cycle is only 1/4, even if they don't have a status curing item or evolution. I can't see this being used unless you're using it with Hypno or a future Grass card which can inflict sleep from the bench. Carnivine's latest card is a 1 energy early game attacker. This role is better filled by Furfrou, or honestly even Kartana, despite its lower HP. You could also just run the new Durant, which does 20 damage normally but 50 if the other Durant is benched. This is quite reliable between Pokeball and the new Fragrant Forest Stadium. But of course once one Durant dies, the other becomes dead weight. It's still a playable card in my opinion, and better than the old Durant. We got a new Applin for its branched evolution. The new one still has terrible HP, but it heals an ally for 30. Honestly, this is going to be worse than just marking damage in 90% of cases, and Grass decks have better healing cards. We have 2 new Tepics, counting a promo. Both of them have synergy with Victini, which lets them reroll their flips, but the first one can use Celebi or Memory Light to use Stoke as an Embor, and since Embor has unlimited damage potential with extra energies, I think the first one is probably better. The latest Darumaka is Colorless Energy, which I guess opens us up to a Psychic-type Darmanitan. Presently that doesn't exist, and both previous Darumakas are better than this one. For Darmanitan, the latest one is designed to work with Victini, and it's comfortably the best of the 3 due to its decent damage and low investment. The middle one also works with Victini, and its steep energy cost is mitigated by Flame Patch or perhaps Moltres, but Fire has much better closers and Darmanitan simply works better as an early game attacker. New Larvesta gets more damage in 2 turns than the old one got in 1, and the energy requirement synergizes with the new 2 energy Volcarona we got. The higher retreat cost on the latest Larvesta is just a downside since neither Volcarona can use Heavy Helmet, but since it's a high HP low investment mon, it should be fine if it comes out early. The new Volcarona hits any target on the field for 50 damage, which is actually quite useful, but the extra investment it needs in the form of energy and deck space compared to Heatmor makes it a hard sell. As you can tell by the premise of these videos, Pocket has previously meticulously avoided making exact duplicate cards until now, with only a single instance on Porygon. But this set actually introduces 3 new exact duplicates, such as this Poliwag having identical properties to the one from Wisdom of Sea and Sky. I think Call for Family is the best one in both gameplay and artwork. I love the Yukimori ones. We've got another Poliwhirl averaging 30 for 1 energy, though it's technically better than the one with Wave Splash since you've got a 1/4 chance to hit the valuable HP benchmark of 60. If you're running Poliwrath, you'd probably want one of the colorless ones, but this should be the best otherwise. New Politoed is designed to be used with Parasol Lady, having good damage output on 1 energy and high enough HP to not get 1-tapped. Amusingly, this does stack on with the previous Politoed, so you could actually get 140 damage in one go by running both of them. The new one should be playable, but Rare Candy is permanently expended even if you use Parasol Lady, and doing the evolutions organically takes a long time. All the Paldean Tauros cards use different energies and aren't competing for deck slots, but I just wanted to bring up that we now have all 3, which is kind of cool. New Wooper loses HP, but is fully colorless. The synergy here is that the new Quagsire does 120 damage if you have a fighting energy on it. Water fighting is a relatively easy dual type thanks to Mantike and such win cons as Garchomp and Poliwrath, but that energy cost on Quagsire is steep. The new Regice is designed to be used alongside Regigigas, I suppose, which can use its energy generation to mitigate this attack cost, but this attack's power is not even good, and you can only attack once every other turn due to being forced to shuffle away your energies each time. Old Regice is not particularly good, and you'd probably rather run Pikumuku or something, but it's still better than this new one. With Claymont, it's not hard to get your Magnetons most of the time, so it's unlikely Magnemite will be on the field longer than a single turn, thus this new one that inflicts paralysis is not especially useful. The third one, which can knock out babies and get drawn with Lizia, should be comfortably the best, but I guess you'd still run the Ram one if you're actually still using Magnezone in an off-color deck. As for the new Magneton, it's garbage. You should always run the Volt Charge one to mitigate Magnezone's cost. I don't understand how they realized the new Charmeleon must have the same ability to be a serious contender against the old one, but they haven't realized the same with Magneton. Voltorb's new card has an admittedly high damage output and can be drawn with Lizia, so it's a contender for the best of the four. If it's me, I'd probably still run the Big Explosion one to reliably knock out babies though. New Electrode is still averaging 50 damage on 1 energy, so it's similar to the Rolling Attack one. Your HP is a bit higher, and your damage output is more volatile. Chincho's new card trades HP for higher damage. I generally think HP is better these days, but they're interchangeable. You could also run the Luring Glow one if you like. Its disruption effect has the potential to be good. Did you know Toxel is the only new baby Pokemon they've made since Gen 4? Anyway, it's not a baby in the TCG, nor a particularly notable card. I'd probably run this new one. Ralts has a bit more HP on its latest card, but in terms of survivability, the Teleport one is probably the best. Kirlia's new card is designed to be used with Gallade, and it's pretty interchangeable with the Slap Kirlia, but if you're running it on a Psychic deck with Gardevoir, then the Psybeam one should be comfortably the best. Here are the Psychic-type Oricorios. The new one gets bonus damage on confused opponents to pair with the new Meowstic. The best of the three is probably the middle one for revenge kills, but there is some merit to the new one. The new Bramblin is Psychic-type, but you could still run the Grass Bramblin on a Psychic deck, and perhaps you would since it's colorless and you can draw it with Lizia. Do note that it can't get free switches with Peculiar Plaza until it evolves though. The card art on this Gligar is cool, and its damage is much higher than the middle one, especially since it hits 60 with weakness, and fighting is a common weakness. If you're running it on a fighting deck, it's probably about as good as the first one. The new Gliscor is also colorless, but I'd rather run the middle one, since the main competitive utility to this card is that it one-taps Lightning Oricorio without being horrible in other matchups, but the top meta decks can do better. Regirock is another card that technically benefits from Regigigas energy ramp. It's not a sitting duck the way Tinglu was, but the energy cost is painfully restrictive and low energy fighting types perform much better. Speaking of, here's Riolu. The new one has an impressive 40 damage on an EX target, which is kind of cool. This amusingly stacks on with Arena of Antiquity and Karina, which can of course be played as soon as you draw them. It's probably interchangeable with the first Riolu, and better than the middle one. It's hard to imagine a Lucario that could provide even close to the utility of the original. The damage output of this new one is nice, but evolving to Mega Lucario is much better as a win con, while evolving to the old Lucario is better to support. We have two new Dwebbles, counting the promo. The promo loses damage but gets a bit of survivability. Take your pick between it and the new one. Stuffle's new card is basically flat worse than the Magnum Punch one. Having a colorless energy requirement does nothing positive for it. As for the new Beware, your average damage is actually lower than the Heavy Impact one, and even with Will it's only about equal, plus you lose HP and Heavy Helmet support. I'd never run this. By contrast, Roly-Poly's new card is a direct upgrade, getting both Heavy Helmet support and more HP. Exact same situation for Carkol. New Colossal's attack is generally about as strong as the old one, but it sounds absolutely hysterical if you happen to get a whole bunch of heads and discard your opponent's whole deck. Finally for this video, we have the promo Zygardes. The first one is an early game attacker very similar to Hitmonchan, only having a different weakness, and it's probably playable even in top meta decks. The second one's damage is somewhat lacking for the cost, but it has enough HP to actually exploit the healing effect to some degree. I don't think it's viable though. Alright, that's it for now. I'll have part 2 up soon with the rest.